On the night of November 5th, 2015, a team of engineers carried heat cameras into the most visited tomb on Earth, Tutankhamun's burial chamber in Luxor's Valley of the Kings. They turned off the lights. In the burial chamber, surrounded by painted gods and golden jackals, they pointed their infrared sensors at the north wall and waited. What they found might prove that the most powerful queen in Egyptian history, Nefertiti, lies buried just meters away behind this ancient wall. The wall lit up on the screen. Warm limestone, warm plaster, warm paint applied more than 3,000 years ago. Uniform temperature across every surface, except one rectangle. A clean, vertical patch on the northern face, roughly the size and shape of a sealed doorway, registering at a different temperature than the stone around it. A temperature anomaly like that means one of two things. Either the wall has a structural flaw no one has noticed in 93 years of excavation, or behind the plaster, behind the paint, behind the images of Tutankhamun meeting the goddess Nut, there is empty space. A room that has been sealed since the day the boy king was buried. The man who ordered the scan was Egypt's Minister of Antiquities, Mamdouh Eldamaty. The man who would later try to shut it down was Zahi-Hawass. And between them, between a Japanese radar engineer with a customized machine nobody else could read, and an Italian physicist who brought 3 radars and found nothing, stands the most explosive question in modern archaeology. What is behind this wall? And why, in 2026, has no one opened it? We are going to follow the scanner, the minister, the physicist, and the wall. And we need to start with the woman who might be behind it. Her name was Nefertiti. Around 1353 BC, her husband did the unthinkable. The pharaoh Amenhotep IV abandoned Egypt's 1,000-year-old religion, declared a single sun god named the Aten, the only deity, closed every temple in Thebes, and built a new capital from scratch in the desert. He changed his own name to Akhenaten. His queen, Nefertiti, stood beside him through all of it. For 17 years, Egypt was upside down. One pharaoh, one god, one new city in the sand. And then Akhenaten died. The old priests came back. The temples of Amun reopened. A boy of 9 took the throne. His name was Tutankhaten, son of Akhenaten, and according to DNA published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in February 2010, one of his own sisters, possibly the mummy, known as the KV-35 younger lady. They changed the boy's name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. The Aten-Hwus was erased, and Nefertiti, the queen who may have ruled in her own right after her husband's death, simply disappeared from the record. No tomb, no mummy, no inscription mentioning where she was buried. For 33 centuries, nothing. Until a British Egyptologist opened a computer file in New York and turned off the color. In 2009, a workshop in Madrid called Factum Art was hired to build the most accurate replica of Tutankhamun's burial chamber ever made. Their purpose was conservation. Too many tourists were damaging the original. The solution was a facsimile so precise that visitors could experience the tomb without ever entering KV-62, the official designation for Tutankhamun's final resting place in the Valley of the Kings. To build that replica, Factum Arte used a scanning system called Lucida. It captured every chisel mark, every brushstroke, every hairline crack in the plaster at sub-millimeter resolution. Then they did something unusual. They published the raw data online in early 2014. Every researcher in the world could now examine the walls of KV-62 from a laptop. Nicholas Reeves was one of them, a British Egyptologist, former curator at the British Museum and the Metropolitan Museum of Art, now working as a visiting scholar at the University of Arizona. Starting in February 2014, He spent months staring at the Factum Art files. But not the way everyone else did. Everyone else looked at the paintings. Reeves turned off the color layer and looked at the bare plaster underneath. And there they were, perfectly straight, vertical lines on the north wall. Lines forming the outline of a doorway. An upper horizontal line consistent with a lintel. On the west wall, a second set of lines suggesting another sealed opening. These were not cracks. Cracks do not form perfect rectangles with architectural proportions. These were the ghosts of two doorways, plastered over and painted to make them invisible. On July 23, 2015, Reeves published his theory. He published a 50-page paper titled The Burial of Nefertiti. His argument was architectural, and it was devastating. Stand in KV62 and look at it. The burial chamber measures roughly 6 meters by 4 meters. The total painted area of the entire tomb is barely 110 square meters. Next door, the tomb of Ramesses VI stretches over 100 meters deep into the rock with dozens of pillars. Tutankhamun was a pharaoh. His tomb is a closet. But that is only the beginning. Every male pharaoh's tomb in the 18th dynasty turns left at the burial chamber. KV62 turns right. That is the plan of a queen's tomb, not a king's. The burial chamber is the only decorated room, painted with scenes from the Book of the Dead and religious imagery. The antechamber, measuring 7.85 meters by 3.55 meters, has rough, unfinished walls. For a pharaoh, that is unheard of. Reeves's conclusion was simple and radical. What we call the tomb of Tutankhamun was never built for Tutankhamun. It was the outer section of a larger tomb, originally cut for Nefertiti. When the boy king died unexpectedly at 19, his officials sealed Nefertiti's burial behind the north wall, a partition just 102 centimeters thick, repurposed her grave goods, crammed his belongings into the front rooms, and closed the door. The tomb of Tutankhamun, Reeves proposed, is the front porch of the tomb of Nefertiti. He needed someone who could see through the wall, and Egypt's minister was ready to provide one. Mamdouh Eldamaty was not a typical politician. He held a PhD in Egyptology from the University of Trier in Germany, had directed the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, and from 2011 to 2014 he had served as Egypt's cultural counselor in Berlin. He served in Berlin, the city where Nefertiti's painted limestone bust sits in the Neues Museum. Eldamaty had spent 3 years walking past her face every day. When he became Minister of Antiquities in June 2014, Egypt's tourism economy was in ruins. The 2011 revolution and the Metrojet bombing over Sinai had emptied the hotels. A discovery of Nefertiti's tomb would be the most significant archaeological event of the century, and it would happen on his watch. In late September 2015, Eldamaty personally inspected the walls with Reeves. He examined the lines, and he agreed they were real. On November 5th and 6th, a joint team from the ministry, Cairo University, and the Paris-based Heritage Innovation Preservation Institute ran infrared thermography scans of the burial chamber. The thermal anomaly on the north wall appeared exactly where Reeves had predicted. 3 weeks later, on the nights of November 26th and 27th, a Japanese radar specialist named Hirokatsu Watanabe wheeled a ground-penetrating radar unit along the walls. Watanabe had more than 40 years of experience, and a machine he had modified over decades, a Koden KSD 3AM operating at 400 megahertz. The data from that unit was, by his own admission, essentially unreadable to anyone but him. What he reported shook Egypt. 2 distinct void regions, one behind the north wall and one behind the west wall, both extending roughly 2 meters behind the painted surface. Watanabe went further, and he claimed the radar indicated metallic and organic substances inside the cavities. On November 28, 2015, Eldamaty held a press conference. He was 90% certain, he said, that there was something behind the walls. The world's media exploded. If we are finding value in this investigation, now is a good time to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It costs nothing, and it helps us keep uncovering the stories that official history left behind. But the celebration did not last. Other radar specialists were skeptical. Lawrence Conyers, the author of Ground-Penetrating Radar for Archaeology, said bluntly that everyone in the ground-penetrating radar field had looked at the data and rolled their eyes. They said the claim about metallic and organic substances was impossible with ground-penetrating radar. And then Italy sent its own man. In February 2018, Francesco Porcelli, a professor of physics at the Politecnico di Torino, led the third and most exhaustive radar campaign ever conducted inside K-Five 62. Sponsored by the National Geographic Society, his team brought 3 different ground-penetrating radar systems, covering a frequency range from 150 MHz to 3 GHz. They scanned every wall vertically and horizontally, using 2 antenna polarizations. Before entering K-Five 62, they first scanned a wall with a known void behind it to prove their equipment worked. Then 3 independent research groups processed the data separately, each using different software, and they were forbidden from communicating with each other. The result was unanimous. Nothing. No voids, no corridors, no chambers, no metallic substances, no organic material, nothing at all. Porcelli published his findings in the Journal of Cultural Heritage in early 2019. His team's explanation for why Watanabe's radar had seen ghosts was elegant and devastating. The painted plaster covering the limestone walls of K-Five 62 has electrical conductivity properties that can channel a radar signal along the surface of the wall rather than through it. The reflections Watanabe interpreted as empty rooms were the wall talking to itself. The painted plaster had fooled them. The very art protecting Tutankhamun's burial had generated phantom chambers. On May 6, 2018, Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, announced the verdict at a conference in Cairo. There are no hidden chambers adjacent to Tutankhamun's tomb. Case closed. Officially. Except it was never really closed. 2 months before Porcelli's team even entered the tomb, Eldamaty had already lost his job. In March 2016, a cabinet reshuffle replaced him with Khalid El-Anani, whose first public statement set the tone for everything that followed. No physical exploration, El-Anani said, would be permitted unless there was 100% certainty that a cavity existed behind the wall. 100% certainty. In archaeology, the standard was designed to ensure that no one would ever drill. At the second annual Tutankhamun conference in May 2016, held at the Grand Egyptian Museum, Eldamaty-Hawass clashed openly. Hawass had been Egypt's antiquities czar under Mubarak, forced out after the 2011 revolution, and had spent years publicly dismissing the Reeves theory as unscientific. Eldamaty had staked his ministry on it. The 2 men reportedly shouted at each other in front of the international press. Hawass had his own theory. He believed Nefertiti's mummy was not behind any wall. She was already found, he argued, in a different tomb entirely. The KV-35 younger lady, the mummy that the 2010 JAMA study identified as Tutankhamun's mother, was Nefertiti herself in his earlier view, though he later shifted to other candidates. French Egyptologist Marc Gabold agreed that the younger lady could be Nefertiti. But the mainstream consensus held that the younger lady was a sister of Akhenaten, not Nefertiti, because Nefertiti carried no king's daughter title in any known inscription. Some scholars even suggested the mysterious pharaoh Smenkhkare, who may have ruled briefly between Akhenaten and Tutankhamun, could be connected to these burial mysteries. And then Eldamaty did something no one expected. He came back. In 2020, 4 years after losing his ministry, he led a new ground-penetrating radar campaign. But this time, he did not scan inside the tomb. He scanned the ground above and around KV 62 from the surface, in collaboration with TerraVision Exploration from the United Kingdom and engineers from Ain Shams University, where he remained a full professor. The results, reported by the journal Nature in early 2020, revealed a corridor-like void, approximately 2 meters high and 10 meters long, running north and parallel with the entrance passage to KV 62. Its orientation suggested a possible connection to the tomb. When Nature asked for comment, Eldamaty said 5 words. "I never give up easily. That anomaly has never been peer-reviewed. It has never been confirmed. It has never been refuted. It sits in the record. Unexplained." And Reeves was not finished either. In November 2022, at the Tutankhamun Centennial Celebration in Luxor, he presented new evidence. Using enhanced imaging of the north wall paintings, he had identified underlying cartouches beneath the visible ones. The scene showing Ai performing the opening of the mouth ritual on Tutankhamun originally showed Tutankhamun himself burying his predecessor. The scene had been overpainted. The pharaoh burying someone was painted over with the image of someone else burying the pharaoh. Reeves's interpretation was that the north wall originally depicted Tutankhamun's funeral rites for Nefertiti. Only after Tut's own unexpected death was the scene reworked to show Ai burying Tut. Meanwhile, Hawass continued to make announcements. He told Egyptian television in December 2024 that he was pretty sure Nefertiti would be found in 2025. In January 2025, a documentary called The Man with the Hat showed him excavating in the eastern Valley of the Kings near Hatshepsut's tomb. He said he was hoping this could be her tomb. As of May 2026, no identification has been confirmed. The Grand Egyptian Museum opened in November 2024. Over 5,000 objects from Tutankhamun's tomb are now on permanent display, including his famous golden mask of Tutankhamun, the canopic jars that held his organs, and the elaborate chariots found in the antechamber. Millions of visitors file past these treasures, many drawn by the ongoing mystery of what might still lie hidden. And the wall stands. 102 centimeters of plastered rubble. Untouched. So why does no one open it? The scientific answer is that Porcelli's team, the most rigorous radar survey ever conducted inside an Egyptian tomb, used 3 systems, 3 frequency bands, and 3 independent processing teams, and concluded with very high confidence that there is nothing behind the wall. Drilling into a 3,300-year-old monument in pursuit of a chamber, the best available evidence says does not exist, would be an act of archaeological vandalism. The conservation answer is that the north wall carries original 18th dynasty paintings. It includes the opening of the mouth scene, Tutankhamun before the goddess Nut, and Tutankhamun and his Ka before Osiris. These are among the most important religious artworks in human history. Reeves himself has urged caution. He has said the key is to excavate slowly and carefully. We cannot go back and redo it. The political answer is the one nobody says out loud. Hawass has staked 30 years of reputation on the claim that nothing is there. He cannot endorse drilling that might prove him wrong. Conversely, if Egypt opens the wall and finds solid rock, it will have destroyed priceless art for a theory the scientific community already rejected. Either outcome is a career-ending disaster for whoever authorizes it. And then there is the fourth answer, the one that sits underneath everything else. As long as the wall stays closed, the mystery remains alive. As long as nobody drills, the question keeps selling tickets at the Grand Egyptian Museum. Nefertiti behind the wall is worth more as a possibility than she would ever be as a confirmed absence. The technology to settle this exists today. Muon tomography, the same cosmic ray technique that discovered the Scan Pyramid's big void inside the Great Pyramid in 2017, could peer through the walls of KV62 without touching the paint. That groundbreaking discovery, published in Nature, proved the technology works on ancient Egyptian monuments. In March 2025, the SkyDP collaboration published designs for new scintillator-based muon telescopes already being deployed at Khafra's pyramid nearby. Nobody has proposed applying them to KV62. Think about that for a moment. We have the machine. We have the method. We have the question. And we have a wall. On November 5th, 2015, a heat camera showed a rectangle on the north wall of Tutankhamun's tomb that was the wrong temperature. In the 11 years since, we have scanned that wall with infrared sensors, with Japanese ground-penetrating radar at 400 MHz, with Italian radar systems spanning 150 MHz to 3 GHz, with surface-level GPR that found a 10-meter corridor nobody can explain, and with enhanced imaging that revealed hidden cartouches underneath the paint. We have looked at that wall with every instrument available to modern science, and we still do not know what is behind it. 3,300 years. And if we are honest, we know exactly as much as Howard Carter did in 1922. We know what we found. We do not know what we missed. And nobody who has the power to open that wall has the courage to try. Somewhere in the Valley of the Kings, behind 102 centimeters of plastered rubble and 3 paintings of a dead boy meeting his gods, there is either nothing at all, or the most powerful queen in Egyptian history, still waiting in the dark. Either way, the wall stays.